Welcome into another edition of The New Normal, where we talk with Stanford coaches, staff, and current and former student athletes about the impact of COVID-19. Today, I'm happy to be joined by former Stanford track star and national champion in the mile, Karisa Nelson. Karisa, thanks for taking some time.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
Well, why don't you start by catching us up on your time since graduating from Stanford? A lot of Bulldog fans may know that you did start a professional career. You're running for Brooks, and you're out on the West Coast now. Just tell us a little bit about how the opportunity came about and what the start of your pro career has been like.
Yeah, so I'm based in Seattle now with Brooks running. And what kind of happens is, like, towards the end of your running career, if you're good enough to go pro, you'll start being approached by companies. Well, first you get approached by an agent. So I've been talking to agent Ray, like, not discussing numbers, you're not allowed to until you graduate, but we've been talking to each other about signing. I've been talking to him since like 2018 actually, but I broke my foot, so I was kind of pressed back. And then, like, the last month of my running career, I had 3 companies approach me: Brooks Running, Atlanta Track Club, and Saucony, based in Boston. So we all kind of talked, and I visited all the places, and I chose Brooks as my favorite place to go. So now they pay me to run, and I'm based in Seattle, which is awesome. So when I first graduated, I decided to stay at Stanford for a while because I wasn't required to go to Seattle until October. So I decided to do assistant coaching with Chad Ballio and the rest of the team, and then flew out Seattle in October and moved here, and I'm a big city girl.
Yeah, talk a little more about the opportunity to be on the coaching side too. As you said, you were back here on campus in the fall, helping out with Chad and the cross-country teams, and obviously the track and cross-country programs meant so much to you during your time here. Just talk a little bit about the opportunity to be able to give back on the coaching side.
Yeah, it was really awesome to give back. Like, I loved it. It wasn't like I was being paid or anything, but it's just a lot of fun to do. And, it gave me another chance to kind of hold on to that college experience a little longer. But it's really cool to see it from the coaching side of view. Like, it's really frustrating when athletes don't do what they're supposed to do. Like, it's just being there, I'm like, why don't you just do it? Like, I don't know how they keep their cool. I'm like, can't you just do what you're supposed to do? And that just drove me crazy a little bit. So their patience is incredible, and they really do, like, they work pretty hard. They're in the office all day, and I never knew the strain of cross-country season for coaches. Like, Chad has to be up at, like, 5 a.m. every day to go to practice, and he's not even running. Like, I don't want to get up at 5 a.m. I mean, I did it in college, but for some reason, once I was done, like, we don't practice till 10 a.m. in Seattle. Like, that's pretty great. So it's really cool to see that side, though. And, like, I kept begging to make, like, training plans for them. It's cool to kind of, like, give them training and see how it turns out. And the races are incredible. Like, seeing an athlete do great in a race is just such a high.
I'm sure he was thrilled to have you back in the fold and helping out as well. Let's talk a little bit about the issue that's affecting everyone across the globe. It's been nearly 2 months since the coronavirus was classified as a global pandemic, and of course it's had an ongoing impact on everyone in all walks of life. And as you mentioned, your track club is based in Seattle, Washington, and of course Washington was the first state to have diagnosed cases of coronavirus. When did you start to hear about this virus and see it having an effect around you?
Yeah, so mid-January, we had just flown to Albuquerque, which is where we do our altitude training, and we were going to be there for a month. And we find something on the news that's like, first case of COVID-19 in Seattle, Washington. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, shoot, like, it's happening. It's in the U.S. And then a couple weeks later, you see like 1,000 cases in Seattle, and I'm just like, what? It's just blown up, and I'm just so glad to be in Albuquerque at the time. But eventually, I got to come back to Seattle. So after I was in Albuquerque and went home in March, things had really started blowing up. Like, it was getting really dangerous, and I was back in Brewton, Alabama, and I was actually debating whether or not I should go back to Seattle because it was so bad. But I ended up going back because I felt like I just wanted to be with my team, and I really want Seattle to feel like home, so I need to spend some time there. And yeah, things are crazy.
It's certainly something that's affected all sports, and each sport's affected a little bit differently. And on the bright side, you're part of a sport that's a little more physically distant. There's no real physical contact. And as far as training, you can still go outside and run on your own whenever you'd like, but it's still obviously having an effect on training and groups and, of course, competitions. Just talk a little bit about the ways in which this has impacted the track world and your routine.
Yeah, so I have to run alone now, which is kind of hard. I've been running. It's been 8 weeks since social distancing started. And at first I had my teammate and roommate, Alio, to run with, but then she got injured. So for the past 6 weeks, I've been on my own. And it's really hard because, like, it's not like I'm doing 4-mile jogs and just have to entertain myself for that long. It's like I'm doing 8-mile and 12-mile runs, and that's like an hour and a half where I have to just try and figure out ways to entertain myself. But as far as races go, everything's been canceled from May and June. And on top of that, the Olympics have been moved back, which is huge. And, honestly, it's a good thing for me because I wasn't quite ready this year. So that gives me more time to, like, build and try and make the team next year. But, yeah, we still have a couple races that have not been canceled in June. It's the Sunset Tour. It's in Southern California, so hopefully they don't cancel that and we can still compete. And we actually still might have an outdoor U.S. championship in August.
I know you were able to take part in the USA Track and Field Indoor Championships in February. You ran in the 1500. Tell us a little bit about that opportunity, and were there any other races you were able to take part in prior to this hitting?
Yeah, so I've only done 2 races this year. One to qualify for USAs, and I actually didn't realize I'd qualified for USAs until the exact day before. Some girl scratched and they're like, "Karisa, you're in." And I'm like, "Yes." So that was great. I was kind of injured all through indoor, and I tore my hamstring at a Halloween party doing a little dance move. So that was really embarrassing. It's like, oh, I'm a pro runner, just tore my hamstring doing a dance move. So that was embarrassing, but we're coming back from that, and I feel like I'm in really good shape now and ready to go.
When things do get back to normal, and it might take some time, but eventually they will, what are some of your long-term goals? Obviously, you mentioned the Olympics. That's the big one.
Yeah, so I got to take it one step at a time. First, I want to finish top 3 at USAs or the Olympic trials, which would get me to the World Championship or the Olympics. And then, of course, like once I make that, I would love to get a medal. An Olympic medal seems like a pretty solid goal.
And lastly, I'm sure you still follow the Stanford track programs, and you were able to see what they accomplished this winter with the women winning again, their 5th consecutive indoor title, and the men winning indoor as well, and Raw Tiffin, men's and women's indoor coach of the year. I'm sure it's special to you to be able to watch the continued success of that program.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, when I was assistant coach in the fall, I knew that we were going to have a really incredible, like, track team. Cross country team was good, but the track team just, like, adds that extra push to the team. And I gotta say, seeing the guys and girls win, I was super happy but also jealous, because when the guys and girls win at the same time, it's just so awesome. There's so much hype, and I mean, they hadn't done that since my freshman year, I don't think. So it was really cool to see them do that, and I'm really happy they got to experience that, especially beating Western. Oh, I can only imagine the faces of the Western guys. Like, that makes my heart happy.
Well, Karisa, thanks so much for your time. I know Stanford fans are looking forward to watching you continue your professional career.
Thank you, Jonathan. It was great talking.
That's former Samford track star Karisa Nelson. I'm John McAfoose. Be sure to stay tuned to our Samford Athletics website and social media channels for more interviews in the coming weeks.